Do you know what advice defenders were given before facing him? Don't look him in the eyes. Seriously. Diego Costa was the kind of man who could start a fight in an empty room, and 5 minutes later lift a championship trophy above his head. Everyone hated him, except the teams he played for. But behind that rabid dog mask lies the story of a guy who was never supposed to become a footballer. Today I'll tell you how a kid from the Brazilian backwoods, named after Maradona, became the most terrifying striker in Europe. It all started in the town of Lagarto, a forgotten place. Diego's father loved football so much that he named his son after Maradona and his older brother Jair, after the legend Jairzinho. But here's the irony. Until the age of 15, Diego had never trained at a football academy. No coaches, no tactics. Just street football, where a foul is when you can't get back up. Diego later admitted it himself. I argued with everyone on the pitch. I couldn't control myself. Once, in a fit of rage, he threw a stone at his brother Jair. The scar stayed for life. When he finally joined a modest club called Barcelona Sportiva, he almost immediately picked up a 4-month ban for slapping an opponent and screaming at the referee. Classic, right? At 17, he moved to Portugal, to Braga. His salary was around £100 a month. Atletico Madrid noticed him and signed him for €1.55 million. But then came the loan spells. They sent him out on loan more often. At Albacete, they called him that damn Brazilian. He once hid under a pile of freshly cut grass during training just to scare his teammates. In 2011, just as he was starting to establish himself at Atletico, disaster struck. A torn ACL. 6 months without football. Many would have broken down, but Diego came back on loan to Rayo Vallecano and scored 10 goals in 16 games. He proved it to Simeone. I'm your soldier. In the 2013 to 2014 season, Diego Costa turned into a machine. 27 goals in La Liga. Just think about those numbers. 27 league goals and another 8 in the Champions League. He wasn't just scoring, he was destroying top clubs. In that season's Madrid derbies, Costa and Ramos put each other through hell. The cameras caught everything. Costa quietly punching Ramos in the ribs, Ramos answering by stepping on his Achilles. There was even a moment when Diego blew his nose right in Sergio's direction, and Ramos tried to bait him into a red card. It was football on the edge of fouls and common sense. But here's the best part. After the final whistle, they could shake hands. That season, Atletico did the impossible. They ended the decade-long dominance of Real Madrid and Barcelona and won the La Liga title. But at the very peak of his fame, Diego found himself at the center of an international scandal that split his life into before and after. In October 2013, a real war between federations broke out. Costa was born in Brazil and had even played 2 friendlies for the Seleção against Italy and Russia. It seemed like his path to the Home World Cup was wide open. Then Spain stepped in. Diego made an unprecedented decision. He wrote an official letter to FIFA, renouncing Brazil in favor of Spain. The reaction back home was instant and brutal. Brazil coach Luis Felipe Scolari said in fury, he turned his back on the dream of millions. Federation lawyers even tried to strip him of Brazilian citizenship. He was labeled a traitor to the nation. And he simply said, Spain gave me everything I have, and I want to repay that debt. And then fate decided to test him right before the Champions League final in Lisbon. A week before the match against Real Madrid, Diego tore his thigh muscle. The doctors said there was no chance. But Costa wouldn't be Costa if he gave up. He flew to Serbia to see the healer Mariana Kovacevic. The treatment sounded insane. Massage using fluid from a horse's placenta and powerful electric shocks. Later, Diego recalled that while he was being shocked, the doctor calmly smoked one cigarette after another. The treatment was brutally painful, but it worked. Almost. He started the final, but the magic lasted only 9 minutes. His body couldn't take it. Costa left the pitch in tears, and Atletico lost in extra time. But the real hell was still ahead. A month later, he arrived at the World Cup in Brazil, wearing Spain's red shirt, to such deafening boos from the stands that the whole world could hear them. It was the hardest month of his career. In the summer of 2014, The Premier League got what it had been missing, a true anti-hero. Jose Mourinho was looking for a killer who wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty, and he found him in Madrid. £32 million. And Diego Costa moved to London. But England wasn't ready for football turning into wrestling. 7 goals in his first 4 Premier League matches. No one had ever done that before. Costa crashed into England like a hurricane. He scored a hat-trick against Swansea and made Chelsea fans instantly forget Fernando Torres. That year, he scored 20 goals and delivered the league title to the club. But the headlines weren't about his finishing. They were about his methods. Remember that match against Arsenal in 2015? Costa completely got under Gabriel Paulista's skin, pushing him, scratching him, stepping on his feet, and whispering things in his ear. Eventually, Gabriel snapped, hit Diego, and got sent off with a red card. And Diego? He just stood there with an innocent look on his face. Arsène Wenger called his behavior unacceptable. The English media gave him a nickname, the Beast. He stepped on Emre Can, head-butted Martin Skrtel, and even pretended to bite Gareth Bale. But here's the paradox. Despite all the dirt, in 3 years at Chelsea, he received just 1 red card. He understood the line better than anyone. By 2017, Costa was the King of London. He already had 2 Premier League titles under 2 different managers. He scored match-winning goals in the toughest games when nothing else was working. But his character had become a problem inside the club. After a training ground conflict and rumors of an offer from China, Antonio Conte made a move that went down in history as one of the strangest transfer decisions ever. He simply sent Diego a text message. "Hi Diego, I hope you're well. Thanks for the season, but you're not in my plans." Costa's response was pure Costa. He didn't show up at the training ground. He didn't apologize. He flew back to his hometown of Lagarto, put on Atletico gear, and posted videos of himself eating ice cream and riding a quad bike, while Chelsea fined him millions. He went on strike for 6 months just to go back home, to Atletico. It became the most expensive vacation in football history. Diego Costa proved one thing. You can't buy him, you can't tame him, and he never forgets a grudge. 6 months in his native Lagarto came to an end. In January 2018, Diego Costa officially returned to Atletico. Madrid welcomed him like a prodigal son. Diego Simeone was ecstatic. His perfect spearhead was back in action. The comeback felt like a fairy tale. In his very first Copa del Rey match against Liga, Diego came off the bench and scored within 5 minutes. Then came a period best described as an injury chronicle. The muscles that had been worked to the limit for years in the Premier League began to fail. A herniated disc, foot surgery, endless muscle tears. Over the next 3 years in Madrid, he scored fewer La Liga goals than he had in a single season at Chelsea. But even when he couldn't run, he still kept biting. In the 2018 UEFA Super Cup, he literally destroyed Real Madrid's defense, scoring twice and winning the trophy for Atletico. It was his last truly great performance against his sworn enemy. In a match against Barcelona, Costa was shown a straight red for insulting the referee. Official Gil Manzano wrote in his report the words Diego allegedly said about his mother. The result? An 8-match suspension. It was a death sentence. While Costa was serving his ban, young João Felix arrived at the club, and the old pack leader slowly began to fade into the background. In December 2020, he asked the club to terminate his contract. He returned to Brazil, to Atlético Mineiro. And what do you know? In just 6 months, he helped the club win the Brazilian League title for the first time in 50 years and lifted the domestic cup as well. And just when everyone thought he had finally settled down on a farm, Diego suddenly resurfaced in the Premier League with Wolverhampton. At 34, he stepped back out against the best defenders in the world simply because he missed the smell of battle. His career is the story of a guy who left every club he played for with a championship trophy in hand. He wasn't a perfect athlete. He was a perfect fighter. So how will Diego Costa be remembered? As the one who dived and provoked, or as the one who could intimidate an entire defense alone? The truth is, in today's sterile football, where players are afraid to say a word too much, Costa was real. He was that street kid who accidentally ended up at an elite ball and decided to start a fight there. And no matter how you feel about him, Without guys like him, football would be damn boring. What's your unforgettable Diego Costa moment? Write it in the comments.